rolling.
Fratelloni's Hardware and Garden Stores brings you Garage Logic Podcast number 1008, January 27th, 2023. 47 degrees we hit on this day. That was in 1934. And then you go all the way up to 1950, and she was 23 below.
And now, from the mayor's office above the boathouse on the east shore of Spoon Lake, it's Garage Logic with Chris Reavers manning Technology Corner, Kenny Olson from the Krabby Coffee Shop, John Haidt in the newsroom, and of course, the Rookie. Here is your flashlight king, fireworks commissioner, and the keeper of common sense, your mayor, Joe Souchere.
I got a note from Kelly who says, of course Joe is chill. Yesterday I was kind of chill. I was being accused of chilling.
Yeah.
Of course Joe is chill. He lives in Wyoming.
Oh, okay.
I just flew in to do this show.
See,
Boy,
here
am I
now.
almost tired.
I got more emails from people leaving the state, and I've just kept the sincere ones, than I do from people who intend to do something about the current mess we're in. In other words, it might have reached the point for many people where they just say, I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm out of here.
Yeah.
I can't handle it. For example, Dave Farron writes, "Hail the Flashlight King.
Hail you.
I've been a longtime listener, starting with the radio show, and now tuning into the broadcast daily. I have been especially dialed into the conversation about leaving the state of Minnesota. I am hitting the road. I'm about 14 months from retirement. For the past year, my wife and I have discussed where we are going to retire, knowing it was not going to be Minnesota. The reasons are simple. One, you could start with the long, cold winters. Personally, I can handle this. The bride, not so much. Two, the state is taxing people to death. We have a $16 billion surplus. No, it's more like $18 billion. And our government gets to pick what the money goes towards instead of giving it back. Do you think if the IRS had overpaid a taxpayer, they would allow the taxpayer to keep it?
Oh, yeah.
Number three, the government is growing way too big. For every person on the government dole is one less person paying into the government to pay for everything. No, if you work for the government, you still pay taxes. You get a salary, right? Mm-hmm. That means fewer people paying for a larger government. Four, I refuse to live in a state that is passing laws allowing the killing of humans in the womb. They are every bit as human as you or I. I could go on, but I think you get the drift. For what it's worth, I'm moving to Florida. The house we purchased is in the same neighborhood as another son, and it has a large pole barn on the property, a perfect place for my classic cars. Is it easy for us to hit the road? No. We moved here in 1981. That's 42 years ago for those who avoid math. We have family in Minnesota, a son, his wife, and grandkids. We are close to our church. We have many close friends, not to mention it's costly to buy, sell, and move. This is not a cheap ordeal, but to me, the short-term cost of moving far outweighs the long-term cost of living here. Plus, how do I live in a state that is so drastically opposed to my beliefs? The good news, no matter where I go, I will continue to listen to Garage Logic. Thank you for letting me spew my thoughts. I will forever keep pushing back, David.
Huh.
Yeah. Well, see, he sits down with the missus, and they have a heart-to-heart, and they figure it out, and they can go.
Mm-hmm.
I told you this already, but I informed the young lady I'm married to who does not pay attention to politics that much, and I said, "Are you aware of the increase for license tabs that the governor hopes to accomplish?" And her mouth dropped. She said, "Why would they do this?" I said, "Honey, you got to start paying attention."
Well, she really, you can choose your wife's way of life, which is very peaceful, because she doesn't concern herself with this.
Right.
But then those are the people who are going to wake up one day and not know what hit them.
Correct.
But those are also the people who don't pay attention to politics in the news that we need in our corner, because when regular Minnesotans find this out, there's going to be outrage.
I just said that. But they're going to wake up and not know what the hell happened to them.
Yeah.
Right.
You just used different words, I think.
I did.
Yeah.
I did.
You know what's going to happen, Joe, when that happens? They're going to go like this.
What happened? Nothing. I'm broadcasting.
Yuck, 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 yuck. I just want to get something out of the way early. It's not that important. Well, it is important. Last a week ago Tuesday, we had our gala 1000th at the Hopkins, at that beautiful venue in Hopkins, the Performing Arts Center.
Hopkins Center for the Arts.
Center for the Arts. And I don't know, 3/4 of the way through the show, I showed Kenny a clipping I had brought. And I think Kenny said, let's not do that. And I agreed, let's not do it. It was the story. I couldn't find it today, but I did find a similar one. It was a story in the Metro section buried about a kid who either died or was seriously injured. He either died because he was shot or he was seriously injured, but the point of the story was he was in a stolen Kia. And it seems to me there's been so much press given to Kias that they're either easy to steal or what have you, that the prediction I was going to make last Tuesday, a week ago Tuesday, was I predict we'll be suing Kia. We won't, the kids' behavior we don't worry about, but we're going to go after Kia because apparently they're making a car that for some reason is too enticing.
Easy to steal.
Well, sure enough, today I got wind of, I got a note from Dan Schultz who writes, I've been sitting here scratching my head trying to come up with a humorous or insightful introduction to this story, but I'm at a loss. It seems like something you'd be interested in because I'm sure it's only a matter of time before other cities jump on the bandwagon. The city of Seattle is not actually dying and obviously has everything else under control when the city attorney, Ann Davidson, has time to file a lawsuit against Kia and Hyundai for causing exponential increase in car thefts. And I was going to predict that the night we were in Hopkins, but it just didn't fit the vibe of the environment, so I let it go. Because I was going to say the same thing. We're going to just sue the automobile manufacturers. In the last 2 years, thefts of Kia and Hyundai cars increased by 363% and 503% in Seattle, according to the lawsuit she filed. The Seattle Police Department reported a 620% increase in reports of stolen Hyundais and Kias in July 2022 over the previous July. Kia and Hyundai, according to this Seattle attorney, chose to cut corners and cut costs at the expense of their customers and the public, Davison said in a statement. As a result, our police force has had to tackle a huge rise in vehicle theft and related problems with already stretched resources. Now Seattle taxpayers must shoulder the burden of the increase in theft. This is it's beyond an outrage because it's the mindset of the Mysterians.
Right.
You can't even make it up fast enough.
I can't make it up fast enough.
Make it up.
This is from Dan in Buckley, Georgia. And he said, as I think about this, I'm sorry, did I say Buckley, Georgia?
I think so.
Yeah.
Dan in Buckley, Washington. As I think about this, I'm actually more surprised that they're even complaining about this issue. It would be more like the city of Seattle to solve this problem by proposing to just give everyone a Kia or a Hyundai so they don't have to steal one. Well,
That's next.
that's not off the table.
Vehicles for all. We're already handing out driver's licenses to everybody.
So I went to look this up, this piece that I had cut out of the Tribune a week ago, and I went to their search bar, and I could not find it. But
I've got it here.
Oh, you do have it here. What happened to that young man?
Yes.
Minneapolis officers responded around 6:30 to reports of a crash, 40th and DuPont. Soon after reports of someone shot in the same area, officers found a red Kia and a teenager in the driver's seat suffering from multiple gunshot wounds. Life-saving measures were enacted, but he was pronounced dead at the scene.
Do we know if the car was stolen?
I think it was.
It
doesn't
had
it?
to be.
Yeah,
It had to
yeah. It's in the headline. Teenage boy
Yeah.
fatally shot while driving stolen car.
And I saw that last week, and I said, we're going to be suing Hyundai. And sure enough, here comes Seattle. They're doing it.
Hold my beer.
Yep.
Here's a story from December 22nd, just this past December 22nd. This is from the Star Tribune. A 14-year-old boy is in the hospital with life-threatening injuries after crashing an allegedly stolen Kia into a tree Sunday night in North Minneapolis. Police responded with fire and EMS personnel around 10:40 p.m. Sunday after a report of a single vehicle crash near North 39th and Upton. The officers found a 14-year-old boy with severe injury. My God, Kenny, I wonder if it's the same kid.
Let me go back.
I wonder if it's the same kid. The boy was the only occupant, and the Kia Optima had been reported stolen, police said.
Well, my story's from the 13th of January.
No, I understand that. This is from December. I'm wondering if it was the same
you think
kid.
it was the same kid?
I wonder.
Oh.
The boy was the only occupant, and the Kia Optima had been reported stolen, police said. The boy was taken to North Memorial Hospital where he remained Monday. This is a tragedy. A life hangs in the balance, Minneapolis Chief O'Hara said. Speed was a contributing factor. Minneapolis PD used the news release to highlight significant increases in Kia and overall car thefts in the city because our progressive ideology in this state has led to such a great quality of life, hasn't it?
Yeah.
For what you pay, what a great quality of life you're getting. And they went on to the police went on to say there are problems with how easy it is to steal Kia cars. Kia and Hyundai thefts in Minneapolis number 2,166 so far in 2022. I'm reading from this December piece, compared with 218 at the same point in 2021. Well, what happened? Kia didn't change their ignitions between 2022 and 2021, did they?
Due to social
they
media.
did.
They did?
Both Kia and Hyundai, as of late 2021, now have immobilizers on them.
Due to social media, these thieves found a way to get into these cars and joyride them.
Matthew, it was a TikTok challenge. It was right there on the internet how to do it.
I wonder if TikTok is going to be sued.
You know, and
China, you mean?
Yeah,
Yeah.
good luck.
And here's another example of why it would literally be extremely difficult, if not impossible, to discover if the 14-year-old boy gravely injured in December in a stolen Kia, did he recover, for example? I hope he did. Did he recover, and was he the same kid who last week was shot multiple times in a stolen Kia? The reason we don't know that is because of our such great quality of life in Minnesota, in the Twin Cities. It's unlikely at all that the 14-year-old boy with severe injuries suffered any consequences whatsoever for the auto theft aside from his injuries. Now, but what I mean is maybe he went home in 2 weeks and he was fine.
But there was no criminal.
And he rallied. He's back on the street. The same age kid, right? 14?
Well, I found a later story dated the 19th, identifying him as a 15-year-old.
Yeah, I heard of 15.
And they name him, but they do not talk about any previous incidents with him.
Well, it all leads to the prediction I was going to make last week, and it's already come true. The way the progressive mob will handle this is not attempt to demand that we hold children accountable or young adults accountable for their behavior. The way we will account for this is to sue the manufacturer of the car. Mm-hmm. And it's no longer me being facetious. It's happening in Seattle.
Yeah.
So I got that out of the way, which is nice. You know why Porsches have their keys on the left side of the dashboard?
No idea.
Didn't know that.
To my understanding, and I'm easily willing to be proven wrong, they're the only manufacturer that has the key on the left side. Think about it. When you get in your car, your ignition, whether it's a key or a button, is on the right side.
Yeah, I know why.
Okay.
Because aren't they initially on the other side, on the driver's and the passenger side? The steering wheel?
No.
Okay. Thought maybe that was it, because then it would be on the inside.
Well,
You're saying it's next to the window.
It's because the majority of people are right-handed. That's why.
I feel
The reason Porsche ignitions are on the left side was to save money back in the day because it required less wire to go from the ignition to the starter.
Those Krauts are
You
so...
think the Germans are that efficient?
That and for racing, it was easier for a driver to jump in the seat, and it was right there, rather than go around the steering wheel and look for it. Boy, am I sorry I brought that up.
Yes,
because
I
you're
think
all
we
morons
but it's-
looking at me like...
I think we're all kind of sorry you brought it up.
Yeah.
But it's still requiring the same amount of physical exertion to start
Yeah.
the vehicle.
Then I'll stick with the saving money story.
Jürgen, there will be much less wire. No more copper.
Is this anecdotal? How do you?
No,
how
it
did
was
you come
told to
about
me
this?
during my ill-fated ownership of a Porsche. It was explained to me by...
What happened with that ride?
She didn't turn out real well, and I feel guilty to this day. And I don't want you to bring... Well, I brought it up, didn't I?
Yeah, you did.
Speaking of cars and
Hey,
ignitions...
what do you
I'm
got?
trying to think of how many Porsches I've ever even sat in.
Here we go. You were right. I take it back, and
you.
I apologize. Up until 1970, the 24 hours of Le Mans, or like we say in Minnesota, Le Mans,
Lee Mans.
endurance race employed a running start when competitors would sprint across the track, jump into their cars, and roar away. The ignition switch on the left allowed a Porsche driver to start the car while shifting into gear and steering off. Now, you didn't say that, but that makes sense.
Yep.
Right hand is busy shifting,
Yep.
left hand is starting.
Yep.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep. You're welcome.
So speaking of the automobile and the future thereof,
Yeah.
the play story in today's Star Tribune is that Biden has officially banned that mine near the BWCA. He banned it for 20 years. That's the maximum a president could ban it without congressional action. So pending, I would imagine, future appeals or whatever, we won't be mining at the Twin Metals mine for the kinds of precious metals that are needed for EV batteries.
Now, when Trump wins the next election, he can undo that on his first day in office, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Because that's usually what happens when any new president takes over. The first couple of days, they spend reversing the previous administration's stupid little rules.
But it is a windmilling problem that will follow the political class through their lives. You want us in government cars,
Yeah.
and yet you are going to go out of your way to appease environmentalism by preventing the mining of the materials needed to make the batteries for your government cars. They're going to continue to be windmilled. I am not. This is a tough one. This is a very tough decision. I certainly endorse the pristine BWCA, BW, BWAC, BWE.
LBGT.
Yeah. But then again, you are the same people, generally speaking, who think electric vehicles will somehow save the earth. And I guess you're just going to have to convince yourself that it's okay some 10-year-old kid in Africa does all the work for you, rather than provide jobs to the people in the Boundary Waters area.
That's where I'm at with the jobs and the miners and needing the work and all of that.
I certainly understand the wish and the intense work that has gone into preserving. In a perfect world, this question would not come up. We don't drill for oil in the Boundary Waters. So fossil fuel use would never have infringed on the Boundary Waters. Mm-hmm. But
Right,
to make your government cars, it will.
As we discovered earlier in the week, though, mining for the material you need to make these batteries isn't that invasive, is it? It involves water.
Yeah, that's for lithium mining.
Oh, this is what?
This is hard rock mining for minerals under the Superior National Forest, copper, nickel,
All right, completely different. Gotcha.
And what's the concern of the environmentalists with great justification is the waste products of the mining
Sure.
and that detriment that could be brought to the lakes. And even though the pressure would be on Twin Metals to take every precaution possible. It's the second big move in federal land protection this week. On Wednesday, the Biden administration said it would not allow roads or logging on some 9 million acres of temperate rainforest in Alaska. In Alaska's nearly 17 million acre Tongass National Forest. Now we go on to learn there are no active mineral leases on the Minnesota land that was withdrawn from mining, but the long-planned Twin Metals mine was slated for the area near Ely. I don't know where it goes from here.
Wonder how the folks of Alaska feel about Biden stepping in and telling them how to conduct business in their state.
Well, that still leaves 8 million acres, apparently, where, if I'm reading it correctly, would allow you to mine. I'm sorry, to harvest trees.
As for northern Minnesota, the irony is killing me here. That the fact that these, and I don't want to start a fight or criticize anybody here, but the miners and mining is, that's a union job, and unions are a product of the Democratic Party, and now the Democratic president has, killed their livelihood. Mm-hmm. But that's theirs to deal with.
I think I have audio back to your why the vehicle was, or the ignition was placed on the left-hand side.
Hit it, Tom
Pay
Ball.
attention to what the nice hand was doing, not the naughty hand.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
that
naughty
explains
hand.
That must be it.
That
The
explains
naughty
it.
hand's on the knob.
That must be
The
it.
nice hand is on the key.
Yep. The old shift knob. Yep. That's a tough one.
Yeah.
It's tough for
Irish pimp.
it is. It's tough for a native Minnesotan to pretend that you're okay with the possibility of sullying that
Well,
beautiful area.
we're just assuming Twin Metals is doing mining like they were in, the turn of the century
Right,
in
they're not,
1910.
obviously.
No, things have changed, and the reclamation process is pretty neat, and they usually do a pretty good job of returning the land to as it formerly once was? Mm-hmm. Is that what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Something like that.
This is the final month of the scooter and electric bike sale at EcoFun Motorsports in Forest Lake and Burnsville. And given what we're hearing about gasoline and transportation issues, I personally run all my errands in the summer on my scooter.
Okay.
They turn every urban errand into an adventure. You can do the same thing on your electric bikes. And they are fantastically famous for their electric bike service at EcoFun. Also, great selection of youth recreational equipment. Those little 4x4s the kids can drive, and you can get the automatic so you sit in a lawn chair and then don't let the kid run into a boulder. And plows with the 4x4s and golf carts, great service and apparel. Tim does a wonderful job with EcoFun Motorsports. Look at the website, ecofunmotorsports.com, and then get out there for the final month of the sale, lowest prices of the year, and they'll keep your purchase until spring. It's EcoFun Motorsports on Forest Lake on Highway 97, just west of Interstate 35E, and in Burnsville on near County Road 42 on the Service Road of Life.
This guy wears many hats, just not indoors. Joe Souchere.
I love Steve from Worthington wrote me a nice note about Seafoam. And Joe, I want you to tell me why I love him so much. Steve from Worthington reminds me of Derek from Vice Grip Garage, or my grandpa, or a million other GLers out there. Hey, Kenny, I've got a Seafoam story for you. Not amazing, but I think it's interesting. I bought a used snowblower in the mid-'90s, kept fixing on it to keep it going because I was poor, and now it's become a bit of a challenge to see if I can keep it going until I move into a facility that will take care of my snow for me. For years, it started in the first pull, then it took 2 for some, then 3. Lately, it's been 4. So I was fixing another item in my shop the other day, and I gave the old thing a couple of gulps. And then just now I had to go blow out my driveway again, and it started on the first pull. Woo!
Viola.
Not an earth-shattering. You wouldn't believe how many people send me that Viola. Not an earth-shattering story, but proof Seafoam works and is probably a good idea to help keep all my cylinders happy. Thanks and good luck. Why do I love Steve so much? What did he say in that email that I respect so much?
I was going to say you love him because he did your ad for you.
Joe?
Because he reminds you of your grandfather.
Why?
Because he's not throwing anything away. He's going to keep stuff running.
Yes, no matter what. He's going to keep that thing around until it throws the piston right out of the top.
Right through the house.
Yeah. I love that. I love that about GLers. What do you always say? We're last droppers.
Last droppers.
That goes for our cylinders, too. And Seafoam helps us get there. It preserves those old cylinders, keeps them running fast and happy. You can find it everywhere. A world-class operation and a great product in a world of bad gas, Seafoam.
Yes, Chris?
I just saw a press release that I was made aware of because of the Twitter account Crime Watch Minneapolis. This is an official press release from the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms and Explosives, St. Paul.
The National Bureau?
Well, St. Paul.
All right.
The division of St. Paul. Dated today, Friday, January 27th at 8:50 a.m. Possible civil unrest in our area may result in looting of businesses. The ATF reminds you to remain vigilant and to take appropriate steps to secure both your firearms inventory and your required records. Please report all suspicious persons or activity to your local police department. Additionally, to notify ATF if you find any of your firearms missing, lost, or stolen, or if you are a victim of an attempted burglary of your business. This was sent to all licensed gun shops and dealers warning of potential unrest in the Twin Cities and to take the appropriate precautions.
And do they give a time for this potential unrest?
No, but it was sent this morning, so I would guess.
Here's my suspicion. The city of Memphis is going to release a police video this evening depicting the 5 officers viciously beating a guy named Tyree Nichols, a black man whose death prompted murder charges against the 5 cops and outrage at the country's latest instance of police brutality. All 5, this is germane to the story, I believe. All 5 cops are black guys. The guy they killed is a black guy. And the people who've seen the video find it revolting beyond their understanding. They've never seen anything like it. The 5 officers have been charged with murder and other crimes in the killing of Tyree Nichols, a motorist who died 3 days after a confrontation with the officers during a traffic stop January 7th. All 5 officers, according to the district attorney, Steve Mulroy, each played different roles in the killing, but they're all responsible. The officers, who are all black, each face charges of second-degree murder, aggravated assault, aggravated kidnapping, and official misconduct and official oppression. Nichols' family members and their lawyers. I think the always available Crump was down there. And why wouldn't he be in a case like this? Nichols' family members and their lawyers said the footage shows officers savagely beating the 29-year-old FedEx worker for 3 minutes in an assault that the legal team likened to the infamous 1991 police beating of Rodney King, a Los Angeles motorist. I remember that distinctly. Mm-hmm. Memphis Police Chief Saralyn Davis, a black female, I don't know if that's germane or not, described the officers' actions as heinous, reckless, and inhumane, and said Friday that her department has been unable to substantiate the reckless driving allegation that prompted the stop. As far as I know today, I do believe that the stop itself was very questionable, she said.
Didn't he run?
Video of the traffic stop will be released to the public tonight.
It doesn't say that any story I've seen, Matthew.
I heard that he ran, and that's why they.
Okay, well, I haven't
I'll look
seen
for
that.
confirmation.
Video of the traffic stop will be released to the public sometime Friday evening, Mulroy said, district attorney, noting that local and state investigators wanted to complete as many interviews as possible before releasing it. Nichols' family members viewed the footage Monday. Davis told Sarah Lynn Davis, the police chief, told Good Morning America that she and other local officials decided it would be best to release the video later in the day Friday after schools have let out and people are home, given that protests are expected to erupt.
Okay, then I understand it, don't
Matthew,
you?
you're right. I found it.
Okay.
As a precaution, Memphis area schools canceled all after-class activities and postponed a school event scheduled for Saturday morning. Other early closures include the Memphis Power Company's community offices and the University of Memphis. Nichols' mom, Rovon Wells, said her family is grief-stricken, but warned supporters of the horrific nature of the video and pleaded for peaceful protests. I don't want us burning our city and tearing up the streets because that's not what my son stood for, she said. She said that yesterday. If you guys are here for me and Tyree, then you will protest peacefully. And the district attorney is pleading for calm. I expect our citizens to exercise their First Amendment right to protest and to demand actions and results, but we need to ensure our community is safe. She said, I'm sorry, that's the police chief, Davis, Sarah Lynn Davis. None of this is a calling card for inciting violence or destruction on our community or against others. Nichols' stepfather, Rodney Wells, told the AP that he and Rovon Wells discussed the second-degree murder charges and are fine with it. They had initially sought first-degree murder charges. There's other charges, so I'm all right with that, he said. Let me see if I can...
Including a charge of kidnapping, I saw.
Mm-hmm.
Which I also, Kenny, just to be upfront, he did not deserve to be beat like that. And I wasn't implying that it's his fault that he ran.
No, you brought up something, and I'm glad you did. Like Joe said, and the story says over and over, police have found no proof of reckless driving. At least it wasn't caught on camera. But Joe, if you don't mind, I'd like to read what I found here. Nichols had been pulled over in the Memphis Hickory Hill neighborhood for alleged reckless driving after an initial altercation. When pepper spray was deployed, Nichols ran. There was another altercation at a nearby location where serious injuries were experienced.
We don't know what that means.
Right.
That means that's where he got the S kicked out of him. And
but
he
the
was
pepper
taken.
spray.
Right. We don't. That's all this NBC News story says about what you brought up, Matt, of him running.
Gosh, I just have to say,
the officers are being investigated for violating department policy. In addition, the chief said a complete and independent review will be conducted of the department's specialized units without providing further details. 2 fire department workers were also removed from duty over the arrest.
really?
Crump is the attorney representing the family, said the video showed that Nichols was shocked, pepper sprayed, and restrained when he was pulled over near his home. He was returning home from a suburban park where he had taken photos of the sunset.
Okay.
All right. Police have said Nichols was stopped for reckless driving and at some point fled from the scene. Relatives have accused the police of causing Nichols to have a heart attack and kidney failure. Authorities have only said Nichols experienced a medical emergency. One of the officers was accused of previously using excessive force. He was named as a defendant in a 2016 federal civil rights lawsuit while employed by the Shelby County Division of Corrections. The claims were ultimately dismissed after a judge ruled that the plaintiff had failed to file a grievance in time. The officers are, I can name them. Is that helpful to even know their names? There's 5 of them. And sounds like a dreadful situation.
Yeah.
But tonight, if way up here in St. Paul we're getting some warnings, then I would imagine the likes of Memphis and the rest of Tennessee are on high alert.
Yeah, I understand the entire country, all the major cities around the country are on high alert for as far away as San Francisco and the West Coast.
You had asked earlier, you were wondering about the timing. After that explanation, I completely get why they're releasing it when they are, don't you? I don't think that, because I think what you were trying to imply, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you were trying to imply like a Friday afternoon news dump. Is that what you were thinking, Joe?
I guess I don't know what I'm thinking.
Because the way I read it, the way that I read it is, I think it makes
Not me.
I think it makes perfect sense why they're releasing it when they are. So that way everyone's home, because oftentimes what happens is we've seen it here where we're trying to get, on 94 and we've got, the entire freeway backed up because of protesters.
The officers are Tadarius Bean, Demetrius Haley, Desmond Mills, Emmett Martin, and Justin Smith. That doesn't help us know much, but apparently it's the nature of the beating that's going to be found to be so disturbing.
Well, yeah, it sounds like they really overdid it, of course.
Why would the brothers beat up a brother? And I'm not saying they should beat up a white guy. I'm just saying that strikes me as odd.
Well, it's not a race thing.
I guess it is.
It's no point in bringing race into
Right.
it.
But I am really glad that Mom spoke up. I mean, I don't think it's really going to help, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But I'm glad she spoke up and said, please protest in his name, but remain civil. Be peaceful about it, because this is what my son would have wanted. I'm so glad she said that.
Well, it sounds to me like the public is way ahead of the... No, I'm sorry. It sounds to me like the city is way ahead of the protesters. The city is certainly not balking at bringing these 5 to justice.
But oftentimes, though, we all know this. None of that's going to matter. People are going to use this as an opportunity. They almost don't give a damn about the individuals affected. They just want to cause damage. Right. We saw it in Atlanta a week ago.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's hope for the best. Maybe we're blessed with a terribly cold evening here.
It's taken a while. This happened on January 7th.
Right. But what took a while apparently was the revelation of the body cam videos are so dreadful apparently that people are going to be warned not to watch it and what have you. So there you have it. Warnings out to lock up your guns to the people who have them. Say, we were made privy by a longtime emailer, Barry Shockley. This is, look at me. This is
Tomwell.
Keith Ellison.
Mm-hmm. That's what I was looking at to go get.
Okay, but it's years ago, but I think it's important to play it.
Yes.
I was saying yesterday, I was quoting an old tax professor who told a friend of mine in their class, they can't take it all. Okay. And I said, well, it feels like they're trying to.
Just wait.
And this is from when Keith Ellison was in the U.S. House. And he apparently was speaking to a group called the Progressive Democrats of America. And I have no reason to believe that Keith's thinking has changed from the day he was captured on tape saying this to a room full of like-minded Mysterians. What he was telling them is America isn't broke and there's plenty of money. It's just that the government doesn't have it yet. So here you go.
People like George Soros, Bill Gates, Warren Buffett, Paul Krugman, Joe Stiglitz, Jeffrey Sachs, Dean Baker, Robert Poland, Larry Summers have all said they support a transaction tax. And so the bottom line is we're not broke. There's plenty of money. It's just the government doesn't have it. The government has a right, the government and the people of the United States have a right to run the programs of the United States. Health, welfare, housing, all these things. And the people who benefit from being here have a duty and obligation to help support it.
Look up, Rook, transactional tax. Transactional tax. This is something apparently that Ellison was talking about, that he's in favor of or was at the time, and is virtually saying, look, the government should have the money to bring about the programs we all benefit from. I don't know where he thinks the money's supposed to come from if you're going to take it from people.
All right, transactional tax. This is from the Latham and Watkins Law Group. I got to get over a review here. Transactional tax lawyers, okay, they're not telling us what it is. Let me go back.
Reavers, type in, what is a transitional tax?
Thought it was transactional.
I'm sorry? What is a transactional tax?
Although transaction taxes can be taxes imposed on any transaction, the term generally refers to the taxes imposed on the trading of currencies, stocks, and other financial instruments by economists. One of the most influential transaction tax is the Tobin tax.
That didn't help me.
No.
This is according to the Financial Transaction Tax Wikipedia page. A financial transaction tax, otherwise known as FTT, is a levy on a specific type of financial transaction for a particular purpose. The tax is both... Oh, here we go. Sorry, I got to read past the cut line. The tax has been most commonly associated with the financial sector for transactions involving intangible property rather than real property. It is not usually considered to include consumption taxes paid by consumers.
Another type of transaction tax, securities transaction taxes, been proposed and implemented in many equity markets. So it sounds like STT are taxes imposed on the trading of stocks, bonds, futures, and contracts.
I can dumb it down. Yeah, what Matt just said, a tax levied on investors when making transactions on the financial market.
So to even dumb it down further, it sounds like Mysterians who would go after Warren Buffett and say, we want a piece of the profit you just made when you bought that railroad.
Right.
It doesn't say anything about profit. It just says a tax on the transaction.
In fact, I won't even use railroad because that's not...
Would that transaction tax apply to somebody like, I don't know, Paul Pelosi when he dumped 3,000 shares of Google stock a month before a DOJ antitrust lawsuit was filed?
Isn't that something?
Would that be the same thing?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Just curious.
Yeah. Well, and anyway, that's kind of eye-opening on the part of Keith.
Okay, these taxes...
Keith is the one that dumbed it down. He said, there's money out there.
Yeah.
We just don't have it.
No, what
They
Keith
haven't
said is
snatched it yet.
we're going to need all
We're
that.
going to need all that money.
These taxes are designed to raise revenue, of course, but are also often intended to modify the behavior of financial institutions and markets, typically to minimize excessive risk-taking and speculation, both behaviors that are widely seen as detrimental to the healthy functioning of markets.
Well,
I have a
another way to
question.
say that would be the government doesn't want you engaging in risk if the government senses it might lose its taste. It might lose its piece of it.
Right on.
I have a question for you, Joe. You're my tax expert. I go to you on all my tax advice and questions. How do states like, say, South Dakota, Florida, or any other state that doesn't charge income tax, how do they do that, and why can't we do that here?
Well, wasn't that part of Jensen's campaign?
How do we do that,
Yeah.
and why can't we do that here?
Well, I'd start with the fact that the population of South Dakota is minimal compared to virtually every other state.
Okay, what about Florida?
Florida,
They're getting it back then in sales taxes.
Tennessee?
They're getting it in sales taxes. They have their own version of consumption taxes.
Yeah, but the cost of living in Florida can't...
I'd really like my whole paycheck. That's all I'm asking.
Well, you're never going to see your whole paycheck.
Not in this state.
And in fact, your paycheck will be less if Walz wins his payroll tax request, which would fund expanded child care.
You know, I'm so glad you mentioned that. This is from an account I follow. This is one that we have used oftentimes in this show when it dealt with COVID and COVID numbers. This is a straight arrow. This is not a biased account. It's called COVID Clarity. New analysis of Governor Tim Walz's One Minnesota budget shows that about $7 billion of the $8 billion in proposed tax breaks, and I'm using air quotes for you listeners, GLers, would go to those who already don't pay the taxes. Yeah, that's right. You see, if you earn under 60, if your household, I should say, is in the third quintile or below, meaning you earn less than $61,000, that's where the $7 billion in tax credits are going.
Yeah, we covered that yesterday. The people that don't pay are getting the money back. The people that do get jacked.
Meanwhile, the 95% of all the taxes paid are in that upper half, which is getting $1 billion of the tax breaks, which is a complete joke.
They can't take it all.
Want to bet?
Getting closer. They're getting closer.
Want to bet?
They're really trying, aren't they? It's amazing. And again, these are tough decisions for people to make about leaving here, you know.
But what people, seriously, Joe, I said this, I'm going to repeat it. But what we need to start worrying about is, it's one thing for people to say, I'm done with this, because that's a personal choice. When businesses and places of employment start making that decision, that's when we're going to see the dominoes start to fall. And I don't know why this administration can't understand that.
I really love that point that the GLer brought up in the email to you, Such. If the Minnesota Department of Revenue accidentally overpaid you by, I don't know, $10 on your refund, not only would you get a letter requesting that money back ASAP, but that letter would be full of threats of garnishing wages, taking a lien on your house, and all sorts of other...
And did you see where the oil companies are again reporting record profits, and that's turned the activists loose? I suppose the Cadies of the world are outraged that an oil company is making money, but the Cadies of the world are not outraged that the government of Minnesota has taken $18 billion of your money.
Well, she's...
Extra.
According to Katie, we get what we pay for, Joe.
Katie, I wish you could join us.
Clean
Katie,
water.
when you're walking down the street and get hit over the head and have your purse stolen, you're not getting what you pay for.
Clean water right out of the tap, Joe. Storm water appropriately dealt with. Libraries, St. Paul Parks, water aerobics, pickleball courts.
Yes, that's
And the
true.
trails, the streets, the bridges, maintaining, constructing, plowing them, and keeping them safe. Bike lanes, sidewalks, public schools, for goodness sakes. Public safety, including inspectors, flood prevention, cops, and firefighters. Trees! Our urban canopy makes our city so much more beautiful and pleasant.
May we take a break and I'll come back to you and talk about snow plowing?
You know how else you can get clean water?
Hofferman.
From my friends at Hofferman Water.
Wow.
And Connecticut, by the way, which is the best water treatment dealer around. Yes, Hofferman Water has been servicing the great state of Minnesota for over 50 years, and they're the best in the business. They'll take care of you. They've been taking care of me for about, 6 years now. I've been a customer of Hofferman and Connecticut. Sales, service, and rental for Connecticut water treatment systems. That includes water softeners, because you know that crap can you got in the basement? Get that replaced so you get some clean water for you and your family. Also, iron, rust, and odor filtration systems and drinking water systems. That new system from Connecticut can do so many things other water softeners just simply cannot do. It will cut down on that salt usage, but it's also going to protect your appliances. Bad water is awful, and it will affect almost every aspect of your largest investment, which is, of course, your home. I'm not kidding. Your showers are better. You get that new system installed. So is your laundry, and not to mention your drinking water. Get in touch with my friends at Hofferman Water today, 952-894-4040. That's 952-894-4040. Or just visit their website, HoffermanWater.com. Hofferman Water, serving the state of Minnesota for over 50 years, as I mentioned. Please tell them you heard about them here on the Garage Logic Podcast.
Yeah.
Oh, are you trying to hear the song?
Yeah.
He's not hated enough for my taste. That's the problem I have with last night. I need my Reusse to be hated universally. And I'm afraid you've gained too much acceptance, Patrick. What is this going to do to you?
I don't know. I'm at another Twins function today, their press conference that they have on the Friday of Twins Fest or whatever the hell it is. And yeah, I got a couple of shots from Falvey and Baldelli. So that's
okay, good.
He's back.
Good.
Yeah, that's okay.
You did issue the great cheap shot, though.
I want these guys to cringe and get PO'd when they see you waddling into the...
Kenny, you'd love it. Last night...
Pat is the Herb Carneal Award winner.
So last night, Patrick is talking about his favorite team, which is the 77 team, Rodney and whatever. And he said, we just lost Soupy Campbell. 400 innings in 3 years as a relief pitcher. He looks right at Rocco. Did you hear that, Rocco?
Yeah.
A relief pitcher.
Nice, Reusse, nice.
Rocco took it okay. I was talking to him today. So anyway, this event today is just kind of a luncheon where they really tell us nothing. So they told us Joe Mauer's going in the Twins Hall of Fame and it's first year eligible. So that's not a big surprise.
I don't think that's a surprise, no.
No, sir.
I didn't get to see it last night. I had to attend an event, but the apparently the Wild had sound like the old days of the Broad Street Bullies.
Yes. It must have been unbelievable. They three fights that happened almost simultaneously.
I guess. Plus, when I got home, there would have been time to watch the last couple of minutes, but it was one of those games where you had to pay. I couldn't find it on TV.
No, it's an ESPN deal.
Well, I couldn't get it.
Why does the NHL do that? They've got to know people aren't watching them.
Yeah.
ESPN Plus, is that?
Yeah, but when that came up on my screen, it was requesting my payment information. I don't have any payment information.
There are creative people who get around that, but we're not going to go into it. So
everybody is just on their feet screaming, "Kill! This is hockey!"
So speaking of brawls, I did a column for the hockey day is in White Bear Lake, right?
Yeah.
And White Bear Lake, of course, immediately for you brings up Moose Goheen, right? But,
absolutely.
You knew Moose, right? Indeed.
Lived three doors down. Lived three doors down.
Yeah, well, it brings to mind Billy Butters for me, so I wrote a column about Billy, who's become a very good Christian man. It was not always thus.
No.
And of course, had some of the greatest brawls in history. He told me one that you could find on the internet, although I think it's only the audio. But the Saints are playing a playoff game against Hartford, and Harry Neal has Jack Carlson. He has Butters, and he has that Blackeny or whatever. So he's got three goons, right?
Right.
And he doesn't play any of them in the first period. And Glenn runs down from the press box and just screams at Harry, "Get those three guys on the ice on the first shift and beat the hell out of them." And the fight lasted for 32 minutes.
Jesus!
Wow. 32 minutes. It's a famous brawl. And basically, Butters started it. He just saw Larry Pleau, P-L-E-A-U, remember him, Larry Pleau, just punched him and all hell broke. Just came out, saw him and punched him.
I got a couple of thoughts about this hockey day in White Bear. If I'm not mistaken, the location of the games is about Interstate 35 and Highway 96. There's
Polar Lakes Park.
Something. Why in the hell didn't they make the rinks on the lake?
I think I'm with you. Let's make it old-time hockey day.
That's not White Bear. That's, I don't know what the hell that is.
Yeah, we've had some ice issues this year, guys.
And when it came to Moose Goheen, every fish I ever caught off the end of the dock, the old man said, "You got to walk over and show that to Moose."
Really?
Yeah.
By then, Moose didn't have much excitement in his life. He wanted to look at the suture.
Well, he lived in a summer-only cottage. You know, Moose was a lineman for NSP.
Well, that's what he did after he was done being the greatest
Yeah.
hockey player in Minnesota history.
My old man said he could skate faster backwards than anyone could skate forward.
Oh, he was a legend. You know what else he was? I looked him up. A World War I guy.
Yep.
He was a signals officer in World War I.
I think Ruck verify this. I think his name is Francis Xavier. Francis Xavier
yeah.
Goheen.
I think it is Francis Xavier, but it is Francis for sure.
And he had a kid who was a good hockey player. The kid is probably now 80 or whatever. Johnny Goheen.
Francis Xavier Moose Goheen.
I knew you knew the Moose, but
Yeah.
Bill Butters takes me back to watching White Bear Lake, great football team in 1969. He was the fullback, and I said to him, "How come you didn't get recruited?" He said, "Because I ran the 40 in about 10 flat."
Yeah.
Speed was not his number one asset, but boy, that used to be big out there. Do you know they're building it? That since they closed that Mariner High School out there.
Yeah.
They kept the building, and their 9th and 10th graders go to one high school, and their 11th and 12th go to another. But they're merged. They're spending a lot of money in merging it, and I guess next year or the year after they're going to do it like everybody else does.
Does that old Hippodrome in White Bear still exist? That's where they played hockey. There was that old building where they played hockey. That's got to be gone. That's got
I
to
don't
be
know.
gone.
I think my kids played there.
Did they?
I think so. It was super old.
Yeah.
They had a very unique Zamboni. It wasn't a regular size.
Wasn't it ice that was just frozen by virtue of nature? I don't think they had any machinery.
That I don't know.
I think it was just outdoor ice inside a building.
How about this? Goheen was a member of the St. Paul Athletic Club team that won the United States Amateur Hockey Championship and received the McNaughton Cup in the 1915-16 season. After that season, Goheen enlisted in the United States Army, served in the European theater during World War I in the Army Signal Corps. After his service, he returned to St. Paul Athletic Club and won a second league championship and McNaughton Club.
Hold my beer. I'll be right back after I solve this war.
Hey, Such.
Yeah.
What fish did you catch that you were most proud to show Moose?
Did it make his Wikipedia?
Little perch the size of his thumb.
No, I do remember one time showing him a pretty good bass.
Oh, really?
Taking a bass.
What would Moose say? Oh, that's a nice one.
Oh, that's a good one, Joel. You get your mother to cook that.
So,
God, I would have loved to grow up 3 doors from some old guy famous.
Yeah.
Reusse, you're right. I looked up this fight on YouTube with the Saints and the Whalers, and they don't have video of it, but the guy doing the play-by-play, it reminds me of something you would have seen on the movie Slapshot.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just absolute mayhem.
Wonder who the play-by-play guy was.
It was the start of the second,
It
evidently.
was the Hartford guy that they got the thing.
Yeah.
He just punched Larry Paul.
Yeah, there was all sorts of sucker punches going on, and yeah, it was just fantastic.
Well, this is, the Broad Street Bullies were like in their heyday then, and everybody was trying to goon their way to the league, and then the WHA was trying to get fans to come to see the brawls. He told me, I didn't get this in a column, but, he later on was playing against Sonmore's team down in Birmingham, and he said I think he was with the Whalers by then, Butters, but they came down there, and Sonmore had these fans that sat behind their bench, and they wore Nazi helmets.
Jeez.
They were there to see the fights in their Nazi helmets. Oh. And he had Gervano, Bilodeau, he had Dave Hansen, and Jack Carlson, I think, maybe Jack. He had 4. Gervano was insane, and he had all those goons down there in Birmingham, and Glenn was in heaven. Here's a guy who became sober, became the greatest crusader for sobriety of all time, but there's nothing he liked better than 2 hockey players kicking the crap out of each other.
Right.
He was unbelievable. Oh, God.
I think it's Dan from Minnesota.
Dan Minnesota, yes.
Dan Minnesota.
Yep.
I think he had a name for the snowplows.
Oh.
That I thought was a great name. Glenn Snowmore.
Glenn Snowmore.
Yes. Yeah, he was one of the best things I did that Glenn was getting ready. Glenn was kind of getting a little dingy and was going to go live with his sister in Toronto.
Mm-hmm.
And they had a going away party for him out in he was staying in a facility, in a senior place, but a nice apartment. And they had a kind of a meeting room out there, and they were having a Glenn going away party. And all these old Gophers and all these old Saints and everybody showed up. And God, the stories, you could have written a novel. It was a book. I mean, not a novel, a book, but it would have read like a novel when he started telling Sonmore stories. So.
Yeah. Are you going to attend Hockey Day?
No, I've done my duty.
Yeah, yeah.
Not especially if it isn't even, if I can't see the shores of White Bear Lake. Why would I possibly?
Man, I wish they would have had that on the lake. I don't. I naively assumed that's where they would hold it when I heard it was going to be in White Bear.
Yeah, it's.
And I know we got ice problems, Kenny, but you can flood the lake.
What now? I'm listening to a fight here.
Give us a little of the noise there of the fight, will you? With Kenny.
Two right hands, Selwood wrestling him now. 15 feet in. Bill Pettis from behind. That's all. Here comes the match. We've got a wild brawl here now. Ladies and gentlemen, Pettis. McCartan kicks off. First, we've got a wild brawl here at the Civic Center. Both benches empty. Al Smith involved. Players fighting everywhere inside the Saints zone. Everyone paired off. Coutinho now in Carlson. Two players wrestling down here. It looks like Hank Slavin.
There's something like 108 minutes, 108 penalty.
Kenny, what
minutes.
website
What was
are you
the
getting that?
dirigible that blew up? The Hindenburg.
Hindenburg,
It sounded
yeah.
like the guy talking about the Hindenburg. Oh, the tragedy!
There's a couple of different things on YouTube. The one that we just played is called Brawl at the Mall.
Yes.
Yeah. Hey, Kenny, they say the official tally was 32 minutes of brawling. 32
Wow.
minutes of
Wow.
Glenn,
Wow. Can
Glenn
you
was
imagine today's hockey fans dealing with that? Oh, my God. Their brains would explode.
Glenn also had the greatest NHL one ever when we weren't going to take the Bruins crap anymore.
Right.
I think, Joe, you remember watching that game?
Yeah,
Joe?
it was
I don't
in
know.
Boston.
It was in Boston.
Yeah.
Because the North Stars had never won in Boston. And did they fight at the face-off, right?
Yeah, it was
the
just-
minute the puck was
Yeah,
dropped,
as soon as it hit the ice, all the gloves came off.
Yep.
Glenn Sonmore for commissioner.
Yep.
Be like Brockmeyer being the commissioner.
Oh, my God. That'd be spectacular.
Yeah, jeez, Louise. So,
Well,
anyway,
Patrick, what do we got this weekend? We got the
Football!
Oh, that's right, the playoffs.
Two great games. The point spread is the Chiefs are only one. I
But,
think, because
Pat, that point spread in the Chiefs-Bengals has changed 4 times since Sunday.
because Mahomes apparently looked good walking away from the podium, so now it's gone back up for
Right.
the Chiefs. But I like Cincinnati to win the game anyway.
Me too.
Not that makes any difference. But the Eagles are 2.5. I think that's too many, don't you?
I do, but it's still a 7th-round rookie quarterback.
Philly at home. I'm liking Philly.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah. So I don't know, but they will be emblematic of this season. Two nutcutters, as we used to say.
Yep.
So it was two close ones. All year the NFL has been able to survive on close games, and these should be 2 more.
Well, very good, and congratulations again.
One quick thing. I
Yes,
promised
sir.
Kenny I would do this. This was tweeted out from a guy I follow who tweets about the Twins named Jeff. He found a great Pioneer Press Patrick Reusse television commercial.
Okay, stop right there.
Yes.
Pat, do you remember when they were doing television ads? I don't.
Yes, they did. One for you and one for me, right?
I guess, but I don't remember it.
Well, he says
Yes.
this is from 91, but you were already at the party.
No, I was already. That was 87. I
Oh,
left a year later, and
Right.
Deborah Howell never forgave me.
Right.
okay.
I told you the Deborah Howell story when she
Oh, yeah.
brought her back. When they brought her back at the Star Tribune to be a guest speaker, and I said, Deborah, and I put my hands out, and she said, "Get away from me, you bleeping bleeper." This is 10 years later.
Right.
So, Pat,
Nice to be loved.
the best part about this 30-second ad is the fact that it features Mike Lynn, Clark Griffith, and Louie. Are you ready?
Pat Reusse has some pretty strong ideas of how sports should be played.
Reusse? The guy's a hack.
And he doesn't pull any punches.
He doesn't know a typewriter from second base.
He tells it like it is.
Reusse? He's a close personal friend of mine.
Pat Reusse. Read him in the St. Paul Pioneer Press Dispatch.
Go ahead, Ken.
Be damned.
The best part, Reusse, was the little wink, the sly little wink you gave the camera.
You know how
Did you
long
tweet that out?
took? Like 3 hours. Come on. This is all I got. Let me go. I was like, Joe.
What is my motivation? Unique New York. Unique New York.
You're crumbling bacon in the frying pan.
Yes. Hey, Rollerback, let's take cut 3. We're getting it down now.
What was with Louis wringing the neck of a newspaper? He had a newspaper rolled up in his hands, but he was...
I think he was... It was supposed to be a satire of him telling me he was a close personal friend. At the same time, he wanted to choke me.
Yeah, that's exactly what I got.
Mike
I
Lynn's...
think what it was, but
it worked.
The Mike Lynn grin when he calls Reusse a hack is perfect.
You could tell he got a lot of pleasure from that.
Joe and I would both agree that he is the most underrated treasure we've ever had in the Twin Cities sports market.
Oh, absolutely.
Remarkable Mike.
Yep.
Remarkable Mike. Joe gave him that name. So.
Yeah.
I think it's a short for Remarkably Slick, wasn't it? What you first call him?
Remarkably slick Mike Lynn.
Capital on Remarkably and Slick. So
Yep.
Such, you used to be somebody in this market.
Yeah.
So much so that Mike Lynn came to you two with the Community Protection Act.
Well, we thought we had the biggest scoop in the world.
Keep it under wraps
Out
here.
of there, I think we ran 2 graphs. I don't know how much.
I think I got a graph.
Community Protection Act.
We thought we were going to win the Pulitzer.
Woodward and Burns.
Yep. We were summoned to his house. It was the best thing we ever had in our lives. The Community Protection Act.
The Times going to be calling us to be investigated.
You know, I think I was your producer at the time. I think you even said, Rook, we can't let you in yet. We can't give you the full Rook. No, we're not.
I'd like to tell you,
Yeah, but
I can't.
Yeah, right. God almighty. That was a beauty. All right. See you later.
See you.
See you later, he says. Kenny.
I remember the day the announcement was going to be made that Reusse was going across the river, and he actually called me up in Maplewood looking for you, Such, because he was trying to track you down so he could tell you personally before you found out over the media, through the media.
I'm like Deborah Howell. I never forgave him.
If I remember right, your reaction wasn't that hot or heated, was it?
I suppose if it was my reaction for the public, I suppose I was civil.
But off the air, when
Off
the mics were closed?
Yeah. You worthless son of a...
The big winter whiteout sale is almost over. We've got the rest of today and then Monday and Tuesday. It's a big sale at Maple Grove Lock and Safe on Centurion, USA, and Colonial Safes, the best made safes in the USA with transferable lifetime warranties, best fire protection you can get, and of course professional delivery and installation. Okay, the Centurion 24, Rich at Maple Grove Lock and Safe is going to give us $300 off that, $329 off the USA 36, and a whopping $795 on the Colonial 50. All of the above-mentioned safes, white gloss, and the winter whiteout sale goes until the end of business next Tuesday. Hook up with Rich at 6901 East Fish Lake Road. Save up to $795. And, of course, you can see all the details and the safes at maplegrovelockandsafe.com.
One day closer.
I'm not going to say it out loud, actually.
Okay.
Well, they wouldn't have any way to know.
Yeah, they don't have it.
Right.
But it's you're doing pretty well, according to the internet.
Yeah.
Here's a question, Joe.
It's the scramble.
Pretty fine.
People also ask, What is Joe Souchere doing now?
Wait a minute.
I was just Googling Joe off the air.
You didn't talk to that guy last night, did you?
What guy?
All right, so Twins thing winding down. I know you guys will find this shocking. Do you know who the first person to leave the event last night was?
It was Such, of course.
Yeah.
Dragging the CP out the door.
Right.
But the boss and I were talking to a gentleman that said, Dan introduced me. Yeah, this is Chris Reuvers. He produces the Garage Logic podcast. And he says, oh, is that still on?
Oh.
So I said, give me your
phone.
Give me your phone. Really nice guy. You guys wouldn't, he's known you two forever, you and Rook.
Well, who was it?
Rick.
Rick? From Harlingen, Texas?
I don't remember what his really nice guy. I forget what his first name was.
Can I clear something up here?
Sure.
Or you have to do something?
Go ahead.
I made the mistake yesterday of believing that Margaret Anderson Kelleher, the Public Works Director of Minneapolis, had strong political affiliations in St. Paul.
Yes.
I've been corrected. The woman I was thinking of is Kathy Lantry.
Oh.
And a GLer was kind enough to link me to an NPR piece that appeared January 30, 2015.
Okay. Yeah, now I remember.
When we're learning that Mayor Chris Coleman plucked City Council President Kathy Lantry to become the city's public works director. They were interviewing 3 other candidates for the job. 2 were from the Twin Cities. One was flown in from Chicago's suburbs. They were interviewing a woman who was the head of public works in Evanston, Illinois. Okay, that's it. I just clearing that up. It was Kathy Lantry. But the larger topic was this current public works director in St. Paul, Sean Kershaw, has an impressive resume. And to his credit, he stood in front of the microphones 2 weeks ago and took all the heat for the lousy plowing. But he has no earthly idea about public works.
No, I looked at his bio.
So I think another glimpse into the third rail of the Mysterian public class. They don't look for a public works director who has public works director experience.
Knows how to work a shovel, maybe wrench a little bit.
You know, in the old days, a guy was the public works director in, I don't know, La Crosse, Wisconsin.
Okay.
And he did a good job, and he kept his resume up, and he got wind of an opening in St. Paul.
Yep.
And then he would apply for that job, and maybe he'd get hired, and thus he improved his career. And and the city stepped up their plowing, for example.
Right.
Well, today, based on what Melvin Carter did hiring Sean Kershaw, that's not important. What's important is that you're on board the ideological bandwagon of non-measurable achievement.
Right.
So this guy, even upon his hiring, I went back and looked it up. Kershaw said, I believe in the inclusiveness and the equity that we're building in St. Paul. Okay, that's fine.
How's your shoveling?
But the guy trying to get to work doesn't give a bleep if it's a woman who's plowing the streets, or a yellow or green or blue or black or red or a male
100%.
or trans or whatever. Just plow the damn streets.
Right.
But they're so steeped in this BS. And then people always say to me, well, you smart guy, you're always yapping your trap. What would you do? I'll tell you exactly what I would do.
That's easy. That's an easy
That's an easy answer.
Yeah,
I'd get rid of every single job in the political administration of St. Paul and Minneapolis that can't be measured for its worth, that can't be measured for its achievement.
Yeah.
That might be 90% of them. I'm not being facetious.
Yeah.
And I'd get rid of them all, and I would go buy new plows and hire new drivers, and I would make it a goal to have the Twin Cities the best plowed metro area in the nation, which it should be.
Yep.
Winter is not new to us. What's new to us is the idea that it's no longer important to us. It used to be important. It used to cost a mayor his job if the streets weren't plowed. Now we're so far away from that.
Really?
Oh, God, yes.
Really?
You could run on a platform of plowing the streets.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And now it's well, we got the right guy. He's on board with all our inclusive nonsense that has nothing to do with streets.
Here.
So that's my speech. And
Well,
it was Kathy Lantry alerted me to that. She didn't know anything about public works. She left the St. Paul City Council to take this gig because Chris Coleman appointed her.
You suppose it'll only get worse, or do you think it'll ever revert back to common sense?
No.
Do you think there'll be a time in the future, 20, 50 years ahead of us, where people will look back and go, damn, they were dumb?
The only thing I know about answering your question is that it will take 20 or 30 years before enough people rally to their senses and a new generation is taught not in the failed academy.
Yeah, just when we think it couldn't get any worse, it does.
Well, that's why we came up with this axiom that with each new mayor, you regret the previous one. Can you imagine regretting Fry and Carter? But I guarantee you will.
No.
If we head down this path, you will.
Well, we just got to sue more car companies for all these carjackings, and then we'll get things right.
Just sue Kia.
Right.
I think the barn door's open. We're heating the outside, and the cat's out of the bag.
And that train left the station.
Yep.
Only because they come to us all the way from Marloth Park in Mpumalanga, South Africa, from the traveling Lymans at worldwidewaftage.com. It was on this day in 1871.
Jan 27.
Kentucky Congressman James Proctor Knott delivered the speech, The Glories of Duluth, in Congress, mocking the city in an effort to defeat a bill granting land to the St. Croix and Lake Superior Railroad. Duluth citizens appreciated the free publicity, however, and the town of Proctor was named for him.
Really?
On this day,
interesting.
On this day in 1960,
127.
Grand Portage National Monument, established by Congress in 1958 and located within the Grand Portage Indian Reservation, was dedicated when Secretary of the Interior Fred A. Seaton accepted the site from the Grand Portage Band of the Minnesota Chippewa. The 8.5-mile Gitche Onagaming, the great carrying place near the mouth of the Pigeon River, was a major gateway into the interior of North America for exploration, the fur trade, and commerce.
You do that portage, you're going to want to just do it all in one trip. There's no going back and forth here to get another bag or grab another canoe.
It's not that long. It's 8 miles?
8 miles.
Yeah, you want to do that once.
Yeah, let's get this over with.
Grand Portage National Monument. Thank you, G. Ellers.
Wait a minute, though. What river was that? Rook and I, we had a discussion about this a while ago.
The Pigeon.
There was a song about that, wasn't there?
You could do
Convention
the Pigeon
in Peoria. Bert from Sesame Street.
I love pigeons, and I love how they walk. And I've created a really cool dance.
Let's do the pigeon.
Doing the pigeon. Doing the pigeon.
We were having such a
It was a great show up until then, wasn't it?
And
I know.
My bad.
Ending on a high note.
You know what we should do is talk about my friends at Slushbuster.
You could use it today, huh?
You sure could. Here's the problem. If you didn't get your Slushbuster right now, you might be out of luck.
Really?
Well, it's become the greatest hit of all 21 Fratelloni's hardware store locations.
I was in Fratelloni's the other night. I believe there was one left.
That's what I'm saying. So when I do this ad with Mike on the Weekly Scramble, he has said, and he means this, call the store and make sure they've got it before you decide to go into one of the 21 locations and ask about the Slushbuster. See, it's invented right here in Burnsville, Minnesota. Dave was getting tired of that corrosive slush ruining his vehicles, so he invented the Slushbuster. Yes, it's going to free all of that ice, chunk, and everything else from your vehicle, but it's also going to damage your cars if you don't get rid of it. So call your Fratelloni's hardware
Why don't you
store
slow down
ahead of time and make sure that they are stocked up. But if you'd like, go to slushbuster.us and you can order one online. They also are available on Amazon and at the Wellna Ace Hardware in Robbinsdale. So Anyway, slushbuster.us. Let Dave know that you heard about its fantastic invention right here on the Garage Logic podcast. Rookie, are you going to do the pigeon this weekend?
Do you know who shares a birthday today on the 27th?
I don't.
Edward Smith, the captain of the Titanic, was born on this day.
Why are you doing
Lewis Carroll and Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart. You know?
Big deal.
You know? You didn't like any of his songs? What are his songs?
I like it. Does he have a CD?
Does he have a CD? What does he play? Hey, PodMN on your smartphone. Check it out for a library of podcasts that will entertain you and possibly educate you. Also, don't forget about us on YouTube. You can subscribe to Garage Logic on YouTube. Doesn't cost you a dime, and it's a great way to entertain yourself. This will cost you $100 for the year, $10 a month. That's the Garage Logic Town Council. You will get a lot of inside information.
And if you sign up right now, a $10 Fratelloni hardware gift card for you.
On that one, garagelogic.com. Have a great weekend. Roz?